Yeah, yeah. So sort of going back to the out of body experiences, would you say it's similar to remote viewing, or is that a completely different line of work? Because I read some books years ago on various remote viewers, and they were able to sort of move their awareness to a far location, and they could describe what was there. But it seemed more like they would draw it down on paper, with someone sitting next to them, giving them sort of like rough coordinates or whatever. But they was able sometimes, when they weren't working for the government, because these were like secret government projects at the time, some of them actually would go into the future. So they would take their awareness and their consciousness into a forward time, or even like a different galaxy or star system, and they were in connecting with other beings, and they had the most amazing experiences, and was almost able to tell what the Earth would be like in the future. Whether that's set in stone again or whether it's a potential. I mean, have you ever come across anything like that, through OBEs?
Well, yeah, I think they're very closely connected, and a few of the people who were involved in Project Stargate, the remote viewing program, like Joe McMoneagle and Ingo Swann, two of the really famous people. I think Ingo Swann is credited with coining the term remote viewing. Both of them had OBEs early on in their psychical development, if you like. I think Joe McMoneagle actually had a near-death experience and an out-of-body experience as part of the near-death experience, and it seemed sort of that after that they started to develop abilities, and then they got involved in the remote viewing program. And yeah, Joe McMoneagle's written a lot about time remote viewing into the future. So yeah, it's I think the difference is just in degree. I think if you think that consciousness is the way that the framework of how we experience the world, then there are deeper and deeper levels of how you're experiencing the world. And remote viewing is, for me, is almost being in two levels at the same time. So you're still aware of the physical reality, but you're also tuned in to the psychical level, or the interconnected level, the extended mind. So it's almost like it's essentially clairvoyance, but with a scientific basis, a scientific structuring to make it more exact in how it works. But I think an out-of-body experience is where you've gone deep enough that your consciousness becomes completely separate from your physical awareness, and you become fully aware in another location. So I think it's on a scale. It's a deeper level in a way.
Yeah. So have you met any other beings when you've been out of your body? Have you made kind of friends in the not astral? And also, is there a silver cord as well that you hear?
Okay, well, I'll start with the silver cord. I've never experienced a silver cord, and again, I think it's to do with the framework of how your consciousness works. And I think that maybe for some people, a visual representation or a conscious representation of their connection with their body is something that works for them and makes sense to them. I mean, maybe there is a connection, but it's very hard to say, because some people do experience it, some people don't. So with most things like that, I tend to be neutral and say, well, I don't know, but there doesn't need to be one, is how I look at it from what I've experienced. And as far as beings, I've had experiences where I've seen other people who appear to be also having an experience. And also people physically seeing me in the experience, which was quite strange.
Wow.
But the first time it happened, where I saw someone in the OBE state who also saw me, was a girl came up alongside me. We were floating down Edgware Road in London, and this girl just came up next to me, like also floating, and surprised me. And because at that point I'd never seen anyone else like that was also having an experience, and we sort of looked at each other and had this kind of connection for a moment, and but we weren't able to properly communicate or take it further than that. But there was an awareness that we were both having a similar experience. And then also later on, I had other experiences where I saw other people who seemed to be having out-of-body experiences around. I mean, my early experiences were mainly always around London, so I generally saw people in London, but not often. I mean, seeing people in that experience was pretty rare. And then later on, when I started to explore those other levels, I became able to get to a level which seemed to be what you could call the afterlife, or where people had passed on to, like coming close to that level. And I seemed to be more aware of them, but them not aware of me.
Right. Okay.
With afterlife levels, it seems, from my experiences anyway, that there's almost like a barrier between living people and people who are on that level.
Yeah.
So it's very, very hard to connect with them, but very interesting to experience. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, can you describe what you see when you at that kind of level?
I saw environments that looked very much like natural Earth environments, but with large groups of people, crowds of people who seemed unaware of me. So what it reminded me of was actually what people describe in near-death experiences, when they describe going through the tunnel of light and then they reach a location that's full of light at the end of the tunnel. That location is full of people, essentially. My experience was very similar. There was no tunnel of light, but what I experienced was an environment full of light, which had figures, lots of figures, people waiting, almost.
Yeah. Were they dressed in modern clothing or old clothing?
It was hard to describe their clothing, really, because they seemed to be glowing. They seemed to be made more of energy. So clothing, you couldn't really make it out.
Right.
If they were even wearing it, it was more that they were made of energy. And in other experiences, on more the lower levels, if you like, or the non-afterlife levels, people appeared more like auric, multicoloured, different colours in different parts of their form. So again, you couldn't really discern any clothes. It was more that they were just made of energy.
So have you kind of come across your guides or doorkeepers or anything like that when you've been out and about as well?
Well, what you could call my guides or my higher self or that kind of level didn't really come through out-of-body experiences. It was more through, I started to do a practice where I would do a kind of standing meditation, and I used to go to like an open space, green open space, and I would do this standing meditation and different forms of trance work. And what I found through that was I started having visionary experiences through doing that. And in those experiences, I connected with a type of consciousness, if you like, that I ended up calling Shah and May, which is also the name of the organisation that I started. So I see Shah May, if you like, as my higher self or my spiritual philosophy. There's a whole story behind how that all came through, and but it's too much to go into now.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I understand where you're coming from, the higher self thing, because some people have comfort in lots of different guides, but in some respects we can just become our own guide, can't we? In a sense, you connect to your own higher self. We are part of that beautiful pure consciousness already. So people have different ways of looking at it, really. But I quite like the higher self aspect of it as well, because you feel like you are